from the Wiltshire Telegraph on Saturday the 27th of January, 1917. Never were the words, "in the midst of life, we are in death," more appropriate than on Tuesday morning. In the village church of Charlton, adjoining Charlton Park, at noon the wedding of Major Poynter and the Lady Agnes Howard was being celebrated. The service was attended by a crowd of interested spectators. Just before the blessing was pronounced on the bridal pair in the same park, 2 second lieutenants of the RFC met with a terrible accident. Indeed, some people who were on their way to the church were the first to be on the scene of the accident and saw it happen. About 10:30, an aeroplane had been seen flying over the town at a low altitude and attracted considerable attention as it made several circles, which seemed to indicate that the occupants had lost their way. The surmise proved to be correct, for in Charlton Park, a mile from the town, the machine made a perfect descent. Aviation is common now, yet aeroplanes rarely descend near Malmesbury. When this machine came down in the park, a little company was soon present. The 2 occupants chatted quite cheerfully, stating that they had lost their bearing. Having studied their charts, they made ready to ascend. Some of the spectators say the engine never stopped, and they were not on terra firma more than 10 minutes. Turning the machine against the wind, an ascent was made, and one of the occupants waved adieu to the onlookers. According to a consensus of opinion, though it is difficult for any but experts to approximate height, the machine had not reached a greater altitude than about 100 feet, when a sound similar to an explosion was heard. The machine dived rapidly nosewards to the earth and was smashed literally to atoms, the occupants being terribly crushed. The force of the impact may be gauged in small degree when we state that a part of the propeller cut into the frozen earth quite 18 inches. The unfortunate men, whom it was difficult to extricate from the wreckage, were removed to the Malmesbury Cottage Hospital and attended by Dr. Pitt and Dr. Moore. It was officially stated that their condition was extremely precarious. They were taken to the hospital in a car summoned by Mr. W. Redman, who appeared to be on the scene at the time of the disaster. Superintendent Witt and his staff were promptly on the spot to guard the wrecked machine. Our representative, Mr. Redman, who was in the park when the machine descended, said the aeroplane came down quite safely and the aviators were not on the ground more than 10 minutes. They were quite cheerful and said they wanted to get to Wrencombe. He thought that when they made their ascent, that the men were going to give the people an exhibition of looping the loop. This is what he said.
"I would say the machine was not up more than 100 feet. It went sideways and suddenly there was a sound as of an explosion. The machine crashed to the earth. We all rushed to the machine, and with Mr. P. McGregor, Mr. Mark Woodward, Mr. E.R. Knapp, Mr. James, Mr. Davis, Mr. Bob Baker, Mr. Moore, and others, we tried to get the men out of the machine. The petrol tank was broken, for petrol was running about, and I was nervous that this would ignite and cause greater anxiety. After the men had been got out, they were covered with overcoats, until rugs could be got from Charlton House. Mr. McGregor went out on his motorcycle to get a car. In the meantime, an improvised ambulance party was formed by 8 of the spectators, who carried their patients, 4 men to each, in their arms in the direction of Malmesbury. In this way, one was carried over a mile when he was put into a car. The other was put into a car belonging to the Cirencester Laundry Co., which was commandeered for the purpose.
The names of the men were 2nd Lieutenant C. Fenton, who was an Australian, and 2nd Lieutenant P.F. Parsons, who later died in the hospital at 2:30 p.m. from the effects of his injuries. At the inquest, a verdict of accidental death was returned.